Hey guys, we're back out on the range again today for our second video on our Savage Access chambered in 308. Today is going to be about reshooting that match ammo to see if we were able to shrink up those groups at all. We've bedded the stock. I've never bedded one of these stocks before. It was way different for me than any other stock that I've ever bedded, which were always wood stocks. But anyway, so it was a little bit different. I'm hoping that it worked. I probably should have done things a little bit differently, but fingers crossed it worked. We also upgraded the scope, so now we have that parallax adjustment. I'm hoping that those two things are going to help shrink our group. Still holding out hope for that match ammo, but obviously ultimately the goal is going to be for us to build that hand load that's going to give us the smallest groups possible. So thanks for joining us in this second video. We're going to go ahead and shoot this group and we'll get this video wrapped up. All right, guys, that didn't look very good. We're gonna go down and take a look, but yeah, I don't think that was very good at all. I'm not sure what is going on with this rifle, but so far it's been kind of a dud. All right, guys, so as you guys probably saw on the camera, this is our group here. That's a pretty ugly group. I was hoping we were going to get a little better results than that. This is a 1-inch diamond, so you can see we haven't really shrunk up much. So the change in optics and bedding the stock didn't do anything. Of course, my bedding job may not have been very good, just because I've never done one of those before. But it could just be the rifle too. I think what I'm going to do is we're going to go back into the studio, and something that I've always wanted to do was to take apart factory ammo, measure overall length, measure the powder charge, measure shoulder bump, measure base to ogive, those sorts of things. I've kind of dabbled with it a little bit, but I think I'm going to do that now and just take a look at this match ammo. We'll take like 5 rounds. Okay, well, we'll take 5 rounds apart and we'll scrutinize those 5 rounds and just see how close these are. I really would have expected better than this, but you know, it's a budget rifle. We'll see. I think probably still fine for shooting deer out to about 300 or so, but we'll get back into the studio and let's analyze that ammo and just see what it looks like. Okay guys, so we've got all that ammo torn down. I've got some measurements that I'm going to show you. You know, I didn't really find necessarily a smoking gun, but there was some variation from one to another that might explain why we would get like 2 bullets that would hit pretty close and then a third one that would fly off a couple 2.5 inches off. So we've got all that analyzed. I'm going to go ahead and run through those numbers for you, and then we'll take a look at it potentially that being the cause for the rifle shooting the way that it was. Of course, a lot of rifles will shoot match ammo much better than that, so I don't know that the rifle's completely off the hook, but we did find some variations in the cartridges that we shot. Or let me say in the cartridges that we measured, because obviously there was no way to measure after the fact the ones that have already been shot. So if we assume that that whole box was similar one to the next and we didn't just get like 7 that were kind of wonky, which would obviously be highly unlikely, pretty and I guess I should also mention, because I did say that we were going to do 5, but I figured since we had 7 left, that we would go ahead and just do all 7. I felt like that would give us a better representation of what probably that whole box looked like. Okay, so here's the data. We measured cartridge base to ogive, cartridge overall length, cartridge base to the shoulder. We measured our powder charge, and each individual bullet by length. Now, as far as cartridge base to ogive is concerned, we did have quite a bit of difference here. Our standard deviation was 2.14, and we did have an extreme spread over seven cartridges of 4 thousandths. So on average, they were 2.14 thousandths different, and we did have as high as 4 thousandths difference on cartridge base to ogive, which is a really important measurement. Another one that we had, well, I mean, I guess you can see our cartridge overall length. Standard deviation wasn't too bad. Extreme spread was 3. I really don't care about cartridge overall length. Not real important in my opinion. Our cartridge base to shoulder, we did have an extreme spread of 2. That makes a difference as far as how close your bullet is going to be sitting to the lands. Another one that was pretty big was we were less than 1 grain, but pretty close to a full grain. I apologize, not a full grain, a full tenth of a grain, which is can be significant when you're not building the actual correct load for that particular rifle. But we also had an extreme spread of 2.2 tenths, so a little more than 2 tenths of a grain, which is pretty darn significant. So between our cartridge base to ogive and our powder charge, that probably explains why we were having so much variation. Again, I know that there are rifles that will shoot much better groups with factory ammo than this one did, but hey, you know, it's a budget rifle. I've seen some that will just shoot lights out right out of the factory using factory ammo, and some of them that you just might have to work at. So we're going to work at this one. We're going to give it everything that we've got. I'm not going to give up on it yet, but we're just going to keep plugging away and see what we can do with this rifle. I do need to point out this one here. So I got a little bit careless in my powder collection, and I accidentally dumped some of this one out. So just so you know, in our powder charge, this was not included in the calculation. So we only calculated 6 on the powder charge. On all of these other areas, we did calculate all 7. That one was left out. So we're going to have 6 that are still good. All right, guys, so that was the numbers. This video is going to get even just a little longer than I ever anticipated, because what I'm going to do now is, because we had that one that had to be thrown out, not to mention the fact that we had some variation anyway in powder charge, I feel like I have everything that I need to make 6 rounds. So I'm going to rebuild that factory ammo, but I'm going to make sure that our shoulder bumps are all equal, our seating depths are all equal, our powder charges are all equal. The primers, I just left the primers in the cases. So I'm going to actually rebuild that ammo and make it to where they're all identical. And we're going to shoot 3 rounds in the Savage. And then I thought it might be a good idea to go ahead and shoot 3 rounds in our POF AR-10. So we'll shoot 3 rounds with the Access. We'll shoot 3 rounds with a different rifle and just see if it's the ammo, if it's the gun. And I know that this isn't all, perfect, and we're not shooting hundreds of rounds, and it's hard to say for sure, right? But at least it kind of gives us an idea. I really feel like we're going to be able to get this rifle dialed in much better anyway when we start custom building the ammo for it. But This is all part of the journey, I think. All right, guys. So I went out and I shot that ammunition. The trouble is, I had recently put a new scope on that Patriot Ordnance Factory rifle, and that scope needed to be zeroed. I only had 8 rounds to be able to do that with, which is not the easiest thing in the world, but absolutely doable. The problem arose when I got to the range today. The only bay, or the only range that had any bays open, was the 100-yard range, which means that I had to get on paper and I had to get zeroed in 8 rounds. That was not going to be an easy feat, but we actually did it. We got that rifle zeroed in under 8 rounds. Here's where the real trouble started. Somehow, I accidentally used 2 of the rounds that I had rebuilt from that Hornady ammunition during the zeroing process, which means that I only had 4 of those rounds left, which also meant that I wasn't going to be able to shoot 2 3-shot groups with 2 different rifles. So I was going to pack it up. Wasn't sure what I was going to do about the video, but then I realized, okay, why don't I do this? Why don't I shoot a 4-shot group with the POF? Because if it shoots a nice and tight group, you know, maybe it's the rifle and that ammunition is fine. Or if it shoots a horrible group, maybe it is the ammunition and there's still hope for that Savage Axis. So this is that group. It's this group here. So as you can see, again, somehow we have an absolutely hideous group. I don't know why. That Patriot's Ordnance Factory rifle, that POF rifle is absolutely a 1-minute gun. It's under a minute gun. I can usually shoot about 7 to 8, 0.7 to 0.8 inch groups with that rifle. So I'm thinking that kind of lets the Savage Axis off the hook, and I'm thinking it's that ammunition. I love Hornady bullets. I love Hornady projectiles. I think Hornady makes good ammunition. I don't know if it's a COVID thing. They weren't able to get a good recipe for those cartridges, so they just kind of threw together whatever they had, sort of like all of us are doing, and made kind of the best that they could, which unfortunately wasn't very good if you don't have a good recipe. That's the only thing that I know to attribute it to, because I have 2 rifles, one that's unknown, the Savage Axis, but I really feel like it should be shooting better groups than that. I'd expect more from Savage. And then we have the POF rifle that I know shoots great groups. I mean, not competition level groups per se, but it's definitely under a 1 minute of angle. So I'm going to say that there's something going on with that ammunition. We're going to charge forward with the Savage Axis. We were going to anyway. This wasn't going to deter us. We've already started building the load for the Savage Axis. But yeah, so again, this wasn't going to deter us, but I think that that kind of gives me hope that it was an ammunition thing and didn't have anything necessarily to do with the rifle. So anyway, I'm going to end this video now. Again, I sincerely appreciate you guys watching. If you would subscribe to the channel so that you can keep up with what we're doing here, I'd appreciate that. If you could like this video, I would appreciate that as well. And if you could leave a comment down there, that really helps the algorithm and that helps this channel out a bunch. So if you'll do those 3 things for me, I'd sincerely appreciate it. Otherwise, until next time, we'll see you later, and I want you guys to have a good day. Thanks again for watching.